Welcome to Panmo TV and welcome to this, an interview with Raza Vehari. Now, those of you who watch regularly will recognize that name. Dr. Raza Vehari is a scientist and engineer working in China at the moment on various experimental energy projects. And he's an inventor. And so he's got some very, very interesting things going on in his life at the moment. Some of it's on his YouTube channel. The rest of it is, well, it's basically contract work he's doing for the Chinese government, and therefore he can't really discuss it. What he can talk about is what he's going to talk about with me this evening. That is, there's been some developments in terms of the moon landings, and you'll know Raza because he was on the Apollo Detectives. He's been on a couple of those programs. Also, the UFO situation, which I've covered many times before, and also free energy development. It appears we may be approaching a pivotal moment in all three of those subjects at the same time, as if there's some kind of connection between them. I hope you enjoy.
So as I mentioned in one of my previous shows, is that NASA has plans to reveal that the Apollo missions were a hoax. Okay, so I'm a whistleblower. I have inside information to this. So I'm the one who's been revealing this. There's many people who know this, but most of them are not talking about it, you know.
Yeah, this was actually, I don't think this was on her Panmo show. I think it was on the Apollo Detectives.
Right.
But you mentioned that NASA may be about to come clean. Could you give us any information on how you know that, or is it all private?
The reason is because China told me. China told me about this back in 2016. And I have a couple friends who are NASA employees, and I was talking to them about this. And well, I have many friends in the Chinese space mission, and I have a couple friends in the European Space Association, and I have two friends who work at NASA. But out of all these people, only one of these NASA friends do I talk to this about, because, you know, she also knows that this thing was a hoax, and we go through the evidences together. You know, every time I find a new smoking gun, I show it to my NASA friend, and I'm like, what do you think about this? And most importantly, we also discuss how did they pull this thing off. This is a big subject which hopefully we can get into today.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed some of the evidence that have been gathered by independent researchers. Can I ask, is your friend open to the kind of information we talked about with Marcus and Neil and all the others on the Apollo Detective show?
Well, I asked her, I said, would you be willing to come out and do an interview with us? But she's like, no, I don't want to lose my job.
Well, yeah, this is always a problem, isn't it? This is always a bit of an obstacle. But
right.
She has she given you information from the inside about how this was done, about how the moon missions were faked?
No, because she's not allowed to ask around in her office, okay, about the Apollo missions.
I imagine it wouldn't make you very popular with some people, yeah.
But the thing is, you know, I have been talking with her ever since 2003. Ever since 2003, you know, I started pulling photos off the NASA web pages and showing it to my friend who's a NASA employee, and it's like, look at this. This seems to be a blooper here, or a mistake. So we've been discussing what are the evidences that it was a hoax, and how did they pull it off. It's just private conversations I'm having with her.
All right.
So this is the thing is, I learned that NASA has plans to admit they fake this thing, and they are hoping that they can delay this announcement until 2025 or 2026.
Right.
But
Why? Can I ask why? Why that would they do this after all these years? Suddenly say, oh,
well, yeah,
after insisting these things were real since
that's a good
1969.
question.
Yeah. Why?
It's a very good question. So the reason is because there are many NASA employees who know this thing was a hoax, and they have promised not to blow the whistle until a certain time. So that's how NASA, there's many people who know it was a hoax, but they're not talking. And the reason they're not talking is NASA said, just keep quiet for a while, and then in 2025, 2026, we're going to make a big public announcement, and then everything will come clean, and you won't have to lie for us anymore. So that's the big thing. What is the lies that they're telling now? Let's be very specific. What is the actual lie which NASA is saying now? The actual lie is that the reason we need radiation protection now when we didn't need it back then is because now we're planning on a longer trip to Mars or building a moon base. So now we need radiation protection. But the Apollo missions were just short missions, so we didn't really need radiation protection back then. This is absolute lie.
Yeah.
Okay, it's totally a lie. They definitely needed it back then, and they didn't have it back then. And the people who are working in that field, who are the people who are designing the new radiation protection material, they know that the Apollo missions couldn't have happened, you know.
Mm.
So these people, see, this is important because many people in my Facebook group ask me, they say, well, NASA faked it back then so they could fake it again now. No, this is totally wrong. Okay.
Mm.
You see, you have to look at the way NASA was back then compared to the way it is now. You see, back then in the 60s, there was a group of Freemasons sitting around in the mission control. Okay. Inside of mission control, you have the main room and you have all the back rooms. So in the back rooms, the people were just watching their monitors, and their monitors was just data which is being fed to them from the front room. So all these thousands of employees didn't know, they thought it was real. Only the people in the front room knew it was a hoax. And there was only astronauts who were allowed into that front room. It was a very small group of Freemasons who were able to pull off this hoax.
Well,
So that,
society was very different as well back then, in
right,
terms
there
of
was no
the culture.
internet. Right. So now everything is open source. NASA is very public about everything they're doing. Every step of the Artemis mission is just on the internet, and high school students are following it. And so there's no way they could pull off a hoax now. There's
Yeah.
way too many people who are watching very closely. And
Yeah.
it's not just a small group of Freemasons who can keep a secret anymore. This is totally wrong thinking if you think that they could pull off another hoax. They have to do it. They have to do it. You see, and this is the thing is, let me just talk about the radiation protection because that's my specialty, okay? Is that they have there's three things they're doing now to protect the astronauts. One, there's a new type of material called boron nitride nanotubes. And the second thing they're doing is they're putting big bags of water on the walls of the ship. And the third thing they're doing is they have invested billions of dollars into cancer treatments. For decades, they've been researching all of these high-tech cancer treatments because they know that the astronauts will be coming back with cancer. You see,
Oh dear.
Artemis 2 is scheduled to launch in November of 2024. And despite, they have this high-tech nanotube materials to protect from radiation and the bags of water, but still the radiation is going to get through, and the astronauts will be coming back with cancer. You know, there's 4 people, right? They've selected the 4 astronauts for Artemis 2. And these, I can guarantee you, these people know the risks. Okay? There's 3 risks, right? One is that a micrometeorite could come along at any time and knock your ship out, and then you're dead, right? The second risk is a solar particle event. If the sun gives off a solar particle event while they're out there, they're finished. You know, there's no protection from that.
Well, we're in the solar maximum, of course, aren't we? And they're going to
we're
launch
in the solar maximum
when the sun is most active. Yeah.
Right. And so then the third thing is this galactic cosmic rays, which are there all the time. You know,
come from sources outside the solar system. Yeah.
Right, and so that's going to penetrate your ship. There's no way to stop that. So then so they will be coming back with cancer, but they have some really high-tech cancer treatments now. So this is the thing is there's many people who know that the Apollo mission simply could not have happened. And why are these people not talking? The reason they're not talking is because NASA has promised them, just keep quiet until 2025, 2026, and then we'll make our public confession. Okay, right. So that's why they're keeping quiet.
So did this promise, sorry, Raza, just asking, where did this promise come from? Which was this in NASA's administration? Right to the top, like Bill Nelson and people like that?
Yeah, I mean, this has been you see, the decision to fake the moon landings was made in 1962, and that's why they called it the Apollo missions, because Apollo is the sun god, whereas Artemis is the moon goddess, right? So they knew that the Apollo missions would be the fake, and the Artemis missions would be the real thing. They knew that from way back in 1962. And they knew that they wouldn't be able to keep it a secret forever.
So they knew one day they'd do a mission called Artemis, which would be real, and the Apollo one was fake.
Right. And so, like, from my understanding is that there's many countries who also know the Apollo missions were a hoax, like Japan, and Europe and Russia and China. So China was told in 1984. NASA told China that we have plans to admit that this thing was a hoax. So if they told China that in 1984, they probably told Japan even earlier. Yeah. And now and then later on, you know, India also found out. They also told India about it. So, and they also obviously told Elon Musk about it.
It seems they're telling people whenever they're about to have their own successful space program. Because presumably when they have that, they could find out, which is why the Soviet Union had to know from day one. Because
the Soviets knew from 1965, because that's when they made an agreement with America. It was that we're going to let you win the nuclear arms race, and we're going to win the space race. So from 1965, America started declining their nuclear weapons and started supplying Russia with their nuclear weapons, so Russia could win the nuclear arms race.
Anthony Sutton was right, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I was just wondering, Raza. Now, obviously, this promise to the people who know within the NASA employment circles, among their staff who know the moon landings were fake, and as you explained, they're bound to work it out because of their current work on Artemis. Is it possible that they're saying this simply to keep those people quiet when they actually have no intention of really admitting it? Is it just an empty promise?
No, but see, that's the thing is, these people are not happy about being forced to lie.
Mm.
Okay, there's people who are in NASA, there's people who are in the European Space Agency, in the Tesla, in China and in Japan, India, so many people who don't want to lie about this thing. They're like, let's just come clean and then we can just be truthful from then on.
Mm.
We don't, they're not happy about being forced to lie. So, but that's what they were told. They said, just keep quiet until 2025 and then we'll come clean. So this is the only reason why they're not talking,
You see,
because
see, if
they
I was sorry, carry on. Sorry.
no, that's it.
All
I'm
right.
just saying that they're not happy about lying. They're not happy about lying, but they agreed to keep quiet until this admission comes. So if this admission doesn't come, then the more and more and more whistleblowers are just going to come out.
Mm.
So
You see,
they have no choice.
yeah. If I was in their position, if I was in the position of these people who work for NASA and know the moon landings were fake, what I'd be saying to the management is, why wait until 2025? Why not do it now?
So it's like, so it's like they're told, it's like, let's do this thing for real, because the sooner we can do this thing for real, the sooner we can come clean about this. So that's why
Oh, I
it's like,
see.
let's all work hard. Let's get Artemis. So the official plan is that we will announce this thing after Artemis 3. So that's the official
That's the
plan. Is that
lander. That's the landing.
yeah, but the thing is that is only considering that Artemis 2 goes without a hitch. Okay?
Yeah.
If there's if there's any kind of a problem with Artemis 2, then they're going to have to admit it early. That's why I'm saying they're hoping they can delay it until 2025, 2026. But if anything goes wrong with Artemis 2, if the ship gets blown up, if the people come back with incurable cancer, they have no choice but to admit it. It's like, okay, yeah, we had there. But regarding this admission, there's one other important thing which I have to tell is that when they admit this to the public, what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to say, well, we did it because there was a Cold War and we had to beat those Russians. So basically, they're going to replace one lie with another lie.
Mm.
And unfortunately, the public is going to buy this. I've been trying to. That's why I've been making all these video series about the Cold War as a hoax. The Russians knew all along. From 1965, the Russians knew that, and even NASA helped them to fake their own thing. The first Russian spacewalk in 1965 was also a hoax. You know,
All right.
so NASA was helping Russia to fake some of their stuff early on as well. So this whole theory that we did it to beat the Russians is just another lie. But unfortunately, people are going to buy that lie.
There
People
always
that
will be, unfortunately, a certain number of people who will just believe everything they're told. Literally, will just a large number of people will. Not everyone. I mean,
and
hopefully, enough people will see through it. I
well,
hope
see,
so.
the thing is, one of the reasons why so many people are going to buy that is because the situation in Ukraine, you know, they've
Yeah.
got their puppet Putin in place, and they're just gonna that's gonna that's my like I say, I don't like to make predictions about the future, but I'm pretty sure that this situation in Ukraine is just going to keep escalating, escalating, escalating until finally 2025, 2026, and then they're going to have it really blown up, and so the Americans are really going to hate Russia by that time. So that'll be the perfect time to inject this theory that, well, we faked the moon landings to beat those evil Russians.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's
So that. Mm.
I mean, I see. I suppose the Ukraine thing is really getting bogged down now. It's just been dragging on for ages, and there doesn't seem to be any way to end it. It just seems to be
Oh,
a
they're trying to
continuous
drag
war.
it out as long as they can, you know.
Yeah, it's
And
really,
they've got,
it is. They've just announced 26 fighter jets being sent from the Netherlands to the Ukraine now, so that's more that's more money being sent and more money being sent to the Zelensky regime, and it just seems like obviously it's an industry, so some people are making money off it. It serves a geopolitical purpose, but
right.
I mean, well, obviously, what I suppose if I were President Putin, my response would be, that was the Soviet Union. This is the new Russia. I was just a junior KGB counterintelligence officer in those days, and which is true. He was actually he was chasing Oleg Gordievsky and people like that in those days. But well, in the 80s, that's what he did. But so he
Well, no, but so
how
he,
many will people believe that, or do people understand the difference between the Soviet Union and Russia today? Do you think there enough
no,
time's gone past?
no, you see, I mean, you're getting into, in order to answer this, you have to look into a little bit into the left-right policies, you know. So one of the things was that at the beginning of the Trump presidency, he was trying to make friendships with Putin. And there was a lot of right-wing Trump fans who also started to support Putin. But then all of a sudden, the bankers who are controlling Putin said, no, this isn't good. You can't have right-wing Americans in favor of you. So they told Putin to change his story about global warming. So what happened was Putin all of a sudden switched from saying global warming is a hoax to saying global warming was real. And once he said that, he lost all the right-wing support in America. So then Putin, everybody both on the right and the left in America can hate Putin again. So he
Mm.
so he's the perfect puppet being told what to say and which roles to play, you know. I mean,
Right.
like he's anti LGBT, so the left hates him, but he's pro global warming, so the right hates him, you know.
So he's
So
the perfect
you know,
boogeyman. Mm.
right.
Now, see, when NASA say 2025 or 2026, is this all? This is all to do with when Artemis 3 takes place.
Right. Right.
So, which is due? It's currently due, let's say, November next year, and that's
Oh,
Artemis
no,
3,
no,
I think,
no.
is it?
Artemis 2 is November of 2024.
Oh,
Artem
really? Oh, right.
Artemis 3, they were giving a date like December 2025, but then just recently, about a month ago or 2 months ago, they said, no, we're going to have to delay it to 2026. And they started blaming Musk. They said, well, I don't think your Starship is going to be ready by 2025. So anyway, but they said, you know, they're still sticking it to 2026 though, you know. So
Yeah.